YouTube is telling me to remember to keep the chat within the community guidelines. Joke's on them. I don't chat. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Gonna get started here in about 30 seconds, I think. You ever have one of those days where you're getting ready to do your live show and you're not sure what words are gonna come out of your mouth? We've all had those days, haven't we? We'll find out in about 30 seconds. Let's see. Roger is here. Hello, Roger. Matthew, Rob, Matthew again. Matthew again. I think it's the same Matthew each time. Dawn is here. Hello, Dawn. Sounds like the start of a poem. Hank's here. Another day, another live show. Oh, gee whiz, Hank. I don't know how to respond to that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't meant to be mean. All right, let's do a thing. What do you say? Make sure I have that one thing going, and then we'll do a thing. If you're here in the chat room, by the way, stick around because I do the chat room thing after the show. I don't actually type because, my nails, but I will respond to some of what's said there. So, yeah. All right, that's recording. What say we do a thing? More 5G follies and the benefit of being a goldfish. It is Wednesday, the 21st of October, 2020, and this is macOS Ken Live. I hope I got the date right. I think it's the 21st of October. Yeah, there it is, right up there in the corner of my fabulous broadcast machine. Hi, it's Ken Ray welcoming you to another edition of macOS Ken Live, the show where we get together every afternoon and just, casually chat. I'm leaning into the casually chat thing today because I got a lot of stuff going on in the chat machine, but I'm not sure how it's all going to come out. We'll find out. Take my hand. We'll do it together. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about Charlie Brown and Ted Lasso. They have roped in, see what I did there? The Motley Fool. We'll talk about why and how, and I don't know. I kind of think the Motley Fool is going up sort of sideways on the mission of the whole Apple TV Plus thing, but like I say, that's for the second half of the show. First half of the show, yes, going back to our roots, talking about the confusion, the misdirection, the concerns, shall we say, around 5G, not conspiracy related, I am glad to say. I've never even looked at any of that stuff. I remember earlier this summer, people were building 5G, burning 5G antennas in the UK. And that's all I can tell you about that. My concerns around 5G are none in a way. I mean, I think the whole thing has been kind of a tiny bit messed up. I'm wondering whether now is the right time for 5G to happen for iPhone. I'm curious how they're ever going to get past the mangled messaging of the whole thing. And mostly it's not going to matter. It's going to matter to you. It's going to matter to me because we are tech people, obviously, because you're sitting here having a tech conversation in the chat room on YouTube or, seeking out tech podcasts. If you're catching this as a podcast later, I, of course, am interested in it because I've been watching Apple for 15 years and everything they do is interesting. Don't always agree, don't always disagree, but let's go over some of it, shall we? What made me want to talk about this today is an article that I saw in CNET. Not something to bring up on macOS Ken, although there's plenty of other 5G stuff that's going to be on macOS Ken for Thursday's show. But this headline kind of encapsulates a lot of what I've been thinking around 5G. According to CNET, the iPhone now has 5G. Here's why you're still not excited. Okay, I don't think that's really true unless you're reading CNET. And again, CNET is a tech news source, so people reading tech news sources might not be excited. I really was turned on by the fact that they talked to a consultancy, Boston Consulting Group, about what's been going on with the messaging here. The guy they talked to is a guy named Michael Breitenstein. He is a partner and associate director at Boston Consulting Group, and he said there has been a marketing race. He adds that a real speed gain comes from using high-frequency spectrum that's still in the process of being built out in most areas. So everybody's getting 5G, but are they getting 5G The team concludes the usual approach to launching a network, first roll out the technology, then design the offers, won't cut it. Breitenstein elaborates that this is because not every service needs all parts of 5G in every location. When will each part of it be designed, released, and standardized? Then what to do with it, Breitenstein asks. With 4G, telcos basically planned the rollout, and when it was done, other guys thought about what they could do with it and how they could sell it, he says. Now you have to bring people in to understand the technology and think what to do with it before it's actually here. That's a different approach than before. That is a nuance that I think the general consumer is not going to get. Now, let me say again, and I'm probably going to say this all the way through the first half of the show, it doesn't matter. It is a nuance the general consumer doesn't get, and the general consumer, I think, is not going to care unless they happen to come across an article that says just because your phone says 5G doesn't mean you're getting 5G service. That's the kind of thing that could get play on the local news. That's the kind of thing that could get picked up, by somebody at a national news level if they're looking for like a 30-second kicker, right? It's the kind of thing that could upset people. It's the kind of thing that could generate clicks if they happen to miss those stories. And there's a really good chance they're going to miss those stories because we're in a pandemic, we're in an election cycle, we're in 2020. But there are so many other stories that are going to get people's attention. The whole 5G thing isn't necessarily going to do it, which makes it really smart that I'm spending so much time talking about it, except it is the kind of thing that we would talk about. When I said that it says, just because it says 5G doesn't mean you've got 5G, that goes to the article that I brought you on today's Mac OS Ken out of Apple Insider. Well, Apple Insider wrote up a part of a review of the iPhone 12 that came out of The Verge. Guy's name is Dieter Bahn. He found out as he was going through his fine print and doing his review that the iPhone, if you have an iPhone 12 or 12 Pro or 12 Pro Max or iPhone Mini, if you've got a 5G enabled iPhone and you're someplace where 5G is available, it's going to say in the upper right hand corner 5G. It doesn't mean you're using 5G. What it's telling you at that point is that's the fastest thing that's available. But of course, one of the things that Apple talked about during the high speed event was their smart data mode, which is basically your phone doesn't need 5G to check email. It doesn't need 5G to read CNET or Apple Insider or The Verge. So it's going to be using 4G. But the second that it needs something that really would benefit from the 5G service, it'll go ahead and kick into 5G. So what that little thing up in the corner is telling you is, 5G is ready for you when you need 5G. Don't worry, we'll tell you. That's if you've got it set to smart data mode. Now, I didn't know until the Dieter Bahn review that you could actually turn smart data mode off. You could just go 5G all the time. Tom's Guide gives us a reason that we wouldn't want to do that. They've actually done the battery test, and their battery tests aren't realistic because they're not running them the way you would actually use your phone, but they're running them the way they run their tests. And what they're finding is if you stay on 5G all the time, you're going to significantly hit your battery life. Here's what Tom's Guide said. First, they explain how they run the test. Surf the web continuously at 150 nits of screen brightness, which I'm assuming is fairly bright, launching a new site every 30 seconds until the battery drains. For the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro, we ran this test over 5G and 4G, and the difference was pretty dramatic. The regular iPhone 12 lasted just 8 hours and 25 minutes over AT&T's 5G network. Last year's iPhone 11 lasted 11 hours and 16 minutes over 4G. To compare, they switched the iPhone 12 to 4G only, and it endured for 10 hours and 23 minutes, which is interesting because that means it's actually running less battery life than last year's phone. You're not going to use your phone that way. You're not going to use it that way. The point is, if you turn it on so you're using 5G all the time, your battery is going to drain more quickly. The iPhone 12 Pro fared a bit better, lasting 9 hours and 6 minutes over T-Mobile's 5G network. That runtime jumped to 11 hours and 24 minutes over 4G. The iPhone 11 Pro lasted 10 hours and 24 minutes over 4G, so says Tom's Guide. I was talking it over with a friend of mine earlier, and they said, Why would you want the 5G indicator up there all the time? And I think the answer is because people are gonna be paying more for 5G. Now, I can tell you why you wouldn't want it to switch back and forth between LTE and 5G, LTE and 5G. That's because it'll look to you like it's being flaky, or you'll feel like you're not getting what you're paying for because you're paying more for 5G. It's just a mess. And here's the problem. We live in a time today where people see something, it doesn't quite look right, and rather than going in and checking it out a bit more, they decide. They decide right there, "There's something wrong with my phone," or "I heard they're lying to me about my phone," or "I'm not getting what I'm paying for." That last one is probably the closest to true. You're paying for access to 5G, you're not necessarily paying for constant use of 5G, and I'm not sure that that's a thing that people understand. And I'm not sure that there's any amount of, messaging that's gonna clear that up, but I'm also not sure, as I said before, that people are gonna care. Now, there was one other thing that I was wondering earlier, and, I'm not saying this to be controversial. Controversy over 5G? What? Was something I was wondering about. Earlier this year, I was talking with, Brian Chaffin over at the Mac Observer. I've talked a few times, with Tom Merritt about 5G as well, mostly in the course of doing In a Few Minutes. February or March of this year, both Brian Chaffin and I decided that this year was not the right year for iPhone to go 5G. We didn't think it was gonna happen. I didn't think it was gonna happen because I didn't think 5G was gonna be ready because I thought this must have actually been March or April. I thought the COVID-19 thing was gonna, really slow down 5G deployment a lot more than it has. Are the battery issues with the phone or the battery issues with 5G? Is the lack of coverage due to the phone? No. Or is it due to the lack of 5G? Yes. Would we have millimeter wave more places, the really fast 5G that people are actually expecting? Would we have that more places if we had waited longer? Well, we know that because right now I want to say the guy from Verizon, whose name escapes me, who actually spoke at the high speed event, he said, "Yeah, we're in like, these 4 cities right now. We're going to be in 16 cities in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be in 60 cities by the end of the year." They are building this plane while it is now in flight because you're going to get your 5G iPhone on Friday, your 5G iPhones on Friday. And you may live in one of those cities that's going to have 5G by the end of the year, but isn't going to have it by the end of this week. When the first iPhone came out, 3G was starting to become available, but they launched the first iPhone without 3G. When the iPhone 4S came out, 4G was available, but they didn't launch a 4G iPhone until iPhone 5. Forgive me. What those two phones have in common, or one of the things that those two phones have in common is Steve Jobs. And you can say Steve Jobs is in every iPhone, and that's true because, without him, we wouldn't have it and all that stuff. But though iPhone 4S came out the day before Steve Jobs died, work on that would have started long before, would have started when he was actually still the CEO, and certainly when he was still active as the chairman. While Tim Cook has been around for a number of iPhones, he was actually around for all of them. This is the first iPhone to come out with the new wireless protocol transition thing. I don't want to say would Steve Jobs have waited, but would Steve Jobs have waited? I'm not saying Tim Cook was wrong because let me stop now again and say mostly people aren't going to care. Mostly people are going to feel like they have a faster phone because they have a phone that says 5G in the corner. They're going to feel good about the fact that they have the best, or they're going to feel good about the fact that they have the best phone for them right now. I believe it was the CNET article that I was referencing a moment ago that said it is expected that the iPhone 12 is going to be the thing that actually kickstarts 5G adoption in the US. I would argue that's probably true because people want the latest iPhone, and the latest iPhone has 5G, so they're going to want to go ahead and pay for, as much as they can get out of that phone. Hard to say for sure if that's exactly true, though, because you only had Verizon turn on their nationwide 5G during the high-speed event. So to say this is really going to do it for 5G adoption, well, the other thing that's going to do it for 5G adoption is actually having 5G available. You don't want to say Tim Cook was wrong for going ahead because I don't think he was. These phones are already selling like crazy, and they're going to sell like crazy, and they're going to be growing pains. What's interesting is with both the 3G iPhone and the 4G iPhone, Apple let everybody else take care of the growing pains, right? It's like they found a guy who was about the same size, about the same body type, about the same weight, and had them fitted and refitted and refitted and refitted for the suit. And then when the suit was fine, Apple slipped right into it. That's 3G, that's 4G, 5G. We're at the tailor. I'm not sure that made as much sense as I hope it did, but I hope it did. I would say that's going to wrap up the 5G talk, but come on. It's honestly a fun thing to play with. It's a fun set of problems to I don't even want to say problems. It's a fun set of parameters with which to play. So there we go. It's a part of the show where I remind you about other shows that I do. There are people on YouTube who watch this live, which is really neat. If you're one of those people and you don't know about the other show that I do, one in particular, I do a daily Apple News and news related to Apple News show called macOS Ken that has been going since January of 2006, coming up on its 15th year. Congratulations, by the way. I don't know if Chuck is here today, but I saw yesterday that Chuck Joyner just celebrated 15 years of Mac Voices. Makes me feel like a whippersnapper because I'm only 14 and 3/4 years old as far as macOS Ken. Anyway, it comes to you Monday through Friday, should be there in the morning. I don't want to say it's all of the important Apple news. It's a lot of important Apple news. Sometimes it's just funny Apple news. If you haven't checked it out, I would love for you to. There's probably like 8 years of those shows available to you right now. Really, you only have to listen to the last few weeks, though, to be caught up. You can find more information at macoscan.com or just look for it wherever you get podcasts. Or heck, I'm actually putting it up here. You can hear the audio of it on YouTube as well. So macoscan.com. It's also how you find me on Twitter. Tell your friends and impress them with your Apple knowledge. If that was foolish, I'm just going to forget I said it. You know why? Because I know the benefit of being a goldfish, which doesn't make a lot of sense to you if you don't watch Ted Lasso. And if you don't watch Ted Lasso, I have to encourage you to do so. Tom Merritt and I actually spend a lot of time talking about Ted Lasso on Tomorrow's in a few minutes. I talked to my mom about Ted Lasso this weekend. I said to her, please try to watch it. She said, it really doesn't appeal to me. I was like, I understand that, but also we've known each other for a while. I said to my mom, I was like, just give it 3 episodes. Just try 3 episodes. And she messaged me the next day and said that she had watched 7. So there you go. If it's good enough for my mom, it's good enough for you, for crying out loud. Anyway, I think so. You know who it's good enough for? It's good enough for critics and it's good enough for audiences. According to a piece that I saw in the Motley Fool, written by Rick Munarriz, it's got an 81% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 98% viewer rating on Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of what the gentleman in the Motley Fool is talking about is not stuff that I necessarily agree with because it came in under the headline, is Apple TV Plus about to crash the Netflix and Disney Plus party? Well, the answer is no. It's just not. It's showing up at the party. It's there at the party. There are really cool people at the party who sort of stand at the side, wallflowers, you call them. Some of the best people are the ones that hang out in the kitchen, not the person in the middle of the room. Not saying there's anything wrong with the guy or gal in the middle of the room. I'm saying there are good people all around. Again, with the analogies. Forgive me, I don't know his name off the top of my head. Mr. Munarriz thinks that Apple might sneak in and actually steal the thunder of Netflix or Disney Plus. And I think that's ludicrous. But I also think that's not the point. All it has to do is do well. Netflix has to succeed at Netflix because Netflix is what Netflix does. Interestingly, I would have said that Disney Plus was just, sort of like, kind of edging its way in there to make sure that it was still part of the social consciousness with Disney Plus. although they just announced a major reorganization a couple of weeks ago that they're going to be concentrating, not exclusively, but they're really gonna be focusing hard on streaming and Disney Plus. That can be kinda depressing if you think about it for a couple of reasons. They normally do big theater fare and theme parks, and now they're concentrating on, something that comes into all of our homes. My assumption is that's because they think we're not going to theaters and theme parks again anytime soon, and that's kind of a bummer. Either way, when Apple bought Beats 6 years ago, I think, there was a rumor that they actually wanted to get into movies and television and things like that, and I talked with Chuck Joyner on Mac Voices at that time, that his question was, did we want people to do that? There were 3 or 4 of us on the panel, I can't remember who. Mark Fuccio, I believe, was one, I can't remember who else. Did we want Apple to do that? And I think my 2 arguments were, first of all, it doesn't matter what we want because Apple's gonna do what it wants to do, and second, yes, because if they wanted to throw what for Apple is a little bit of money at making original content, I see no reason they shouldn't do that, because the worst thing that happens is they lose a bit of money. See also, I'm sure iPod Hi-Fi didn't lose money, but Apple has tried things before that didn't set the world on fire. And so if Apple wanted to try making original content, it might not set the world on fire, but it doesn't have to, because the iPhone sets the world on fire, the Mac, the iPad, Apple Watch. I mean, there are all sorts of things that Apple's doing that's making money hand over fist. They don't have to succeed in Apple TV Plus. So I kind of don't agree with the premise of the Motley Fool story. Everything else about it, I actually agree with. In fact, everything else about it we talked about here yesterday. He is especially turned on by the fact that Apple has picked up Charlie Brown. There was some initial outrage on social media with this shift. Some are calling Apple greedy, but the real culprit here, he says, is the network TV is too cheap to enter into a bidding war for proven content. Not 100% certain that's fair, because if network TV does this, what do they get? 2 times maybe they can show it. Maybe you can go to their site and watch it streaming, but Apple is built for streaming. It's not really fair to say Apple was willing to pay more than ABC was, because ABC gets to show it once, maybe twice, in a time that I know a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old who aren't even conscious of the fact that TV shows come on at certain times. They grew up in a cord-cut world. They watch things on YouTube. They watch things on streaming services through smart TVs. I don't think it's fair to say that the networks were too cheap. I don't know that the return is there for the networks anymore the way it would be for Apple. The other thing they point out, though, is Apple's going to make the stuff free for a couple of days, for I guess 3 days for each of the specials, which we talked about yesterday. Let's be honest here. Snoopy is a Trojan horse, says the Motley Fool piece. Folks are going to download the Apple TV app on their streaming hubs for this holiday freebie, and they'll stay close every single month until the end of the year. They may decide to stick around as paying subscribers, just as the first wave of Apple TV Plus users who got the 12-month trial for buying iOS gadgetry potentially walks away. I know I didn't mention Ted Lasso much in there, but the other thing he talks about all the way through is Ted Lasso and what an amazing show that's been. There have been some disappointments. I don't think C did exactly what Apple wanted it to do, but I know they're going back into production for season 2. I know there are people who are interested. I still haven't brought myself to try it yet. I tried Servant, didn't do it for me. After 5 or 6 episodes, I quit watching and just, never looked back. I love Defending Jacob. Look, they're just going to keep throwing content. They're going to keep throwing content. I hope that they do things like Ted Lasso and Mythic Quest, which is not for the faint of heart. If you don't like cursing, you don't like Mythic Quest. Let me tell you now. If you're okay with cursing, I would say give that one a try. The things that have appealed to me most on Apple TV Plus are exactly what I talked about yesterday and what Tim Cook said when he announced Apple TV Plus. Great stories can change the world. And we might be asking a bit much of anything like that at this point. Great stories can't change the world the way they did when there were 4 channels in every city. But great stories can change the world for the people who happen to catch them. I may have said something exactly like that yesterday. I don't mean to repeat myself, but I also don't mean to repeat myself, right? Let's do a bit of feedback and then we're going to motor because, show upon show upon show to work on. HomePod actually generated a lot of feedback. I don't know if this was feedback to the live show or to Mac OS Ken. I will probably let people know on Mac OS Ken that I'm handling feedback here. And then there will be more people. I was talking yesterday about the fact that HomePod software 14.1 is going to make it possible for you to wake up to a song. That happened today. I woke up today to The Road by Zero 07, which is one of my favorite songs. I usually wake up to it on my iPhone. Today I woke up to it on my HomePod, which has a richer sound and is more flavorful. I think it's got Retson. Mike wrote in to say, you've been talking about waking up to music through your HomePods as an upcoming feature. You can already do this by creating an automation in the Home app. You can create an automation and select your HomePods as the accessory and select play audio. And I have an Apple Music subscription, so I can pick almost anything. Then turn on or off the automation in the Home app and change the timer music as well. Yeah, that's a lot of steps. And he actually sent me screenshots as well to show me exactly how to do it. And I appreciate that, except of course now we have the update. The thing that amazed me, because I think I said on Mac OS Ken, I thought I was the one who couldn't play a song just by saying, hey, play this song to wake me up. That we're 2 years into HomePod or more, and it just now is able to do what the clock radio that I grew up with in the 1970s and 80s was able to do, i.e. play music to wake me up instead of a chime. That was a bit surprising. I love the fact that the automation stuff is out there, but if that's ever going to be the why doesn't my phone or why doesn't my HomePod or whatever have this feature? Oh, it does. All you have to do is build it. I'm glad they put in the feature. I guess that's what I'm saying. Another bit of HomePod feedback. This one from Ross on the Gold Coast, or from Gold Coast, Australia, he says. And this is the bad news as far as the HomePod update. The good news is you can now set a tune to be your alarm. The bad news, just updated HomePod to 14.1 and discovered the new intercom feature only works between multiple HomePods at the moment, but Apple says intercom's expanded support for other devices isn't being rolled out today. Instead, it will arrive through further software updates later this year. So the thing they showed in that really swanky house that those people live in, next to the HomePod in the high-speed event, where you can just, tell your HomePod, tell everybody this. Apparently, according to Ross, if there's no other HomePod in your house, it won't do that. It can't do that. But the thing is coming where you can do that to iPhones and iPads and AirPods and other HomePods. I think the only thing it won't work on is the Mac, I believe is what I heard. It won't interrupt your Mac. So there we go. I mentioned earlier feedback because that's what I just read. If you'd like to leave comments on this video, you're more than welcome to. That is one way to leave feedback. The other way to leave feedback, send me an email, info@macosken.com, info, info@macosken.com. Coming up tomorrow, we got the checklist brought to you by Secure Mac. Got tomorrow morning's edition of Mac OS Ken, and of course, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. We'll be back here on YouTube, youtube.com/KenRay, to do Mac OS Ken Live. I will talk to you one or all of those times. Take care. You don't have to be quiet. It's fine. I have to be quiet. I don't even have to be quiet. Hold on. I'm going to stop this thing, and then I'm going to come over here and talk to the people in the chat. You know how you guys stop me from drinking coffee every day? Joke's on you. I didn't bring coffee. Haha. Who's stopping me from drinking coffee now? Huh? Right. Who else is here? Donna's here. Matthew, Frank, Mac Voices. There we go. Oh, tell your sister I said, hey, Chuck, unless you're already gone, in which case don't. Right. Let's see what people said while I was saying. Frank says he doesn't understand 5G on a mobile device. You know what I meant to talk about? Did you hear about Quibi? Quibi's gone. Whew. That would have been a good use for 5G if it had made it to the 5G launch. If you don't know what Quibi was, I barely know what Quibi was. Apparently, Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, who I want to say ran for something at one point, and she was also the head of HP. And was she the head of? No, she was the head of eBay, and was she also head of HP? I can't remember. Anyway, they sunk millions. Scratch that. They got billions of dollars raised for Quibi, which was the short form video thing made for people standing in line, people riding on the train, made for people who were out doing things. They paid real Hollywood talent, Hollywood prices for stuff, and then they put it just on an app on mobile devices, charging some kind of subscription each month. I don't even know what the amount was because first of all, I worked from home even before the pandemic, so the idea of something to watch while I'm out and about. If I'm out and about, I've purposely taken myself away from things to watch. But yeah, just last week, Quibi actually launched an app for smart TVs, streaming boxes, things like that. Apparently looking for subscribers there, and that was way too little, way too late because it's come out now that they're going under like today, apparently, or Katzenberg was calling investors, letting them know that he was pulling the plug on the whole thing. That was after a rumor that they were trying to sell their content earlier this week and that they were looking for a buyer last week as well. Man, talk about bad timing. I mean, I think it was going to be a hard hill to climb anyway, but built for people on the go just in time for people to not go anywhere. That's a tough one. Anyway, there's one answer to your question, Frank. I don't know that you would have needed 5G for that. I mean, the thing is, 5G is a glass that will be filled. It's interesting what the guy from Boston Consulting was talking about in that piece that I was reading a minute ago. He basically said what they used to do is they would build out the network and then people would find ways to use it. We are now in this time where they're building out the network and we're trying to figure out how to use it while they're still building it. You're right today, Frank. There might be no reason, but coming soon. It's one of those things, you get people a place to play, they'll find a way to play in it and charge other people for the privilege. Is there a way to turn off 5G on the iPhone? That's a good question, Bill. I would imagine so. I mean, if you can turn it on so that it's just 5G, I would imagine there's a way to turn it off as well. But I don't have one, so I don't know. I have a friend that I can ask, though, so I'll try to get you that answer tomorrow. Yeah. Sorry. Matthew was saying it's the way they pitch the phones. Well, it's not. Is it not? Is it really the way they pitch the phones, or is it the way the wireless carriers are pitching the wireless service they're trying to get people to pay more money for? I mean, certainly Apple, man, the high-speed event, Apple certainly leaned into the whole 5G thing, but I think somebody also counted the number of times that Verizon's name was said during the keynote. I don't know that we know what kind of deal was made there. I don't know that we'll ever know what kind of deal was made there. I'm not saying the whole thing was a pitch for Verizon, but it was a pitch for 5G in ways that are kind of weird because you wouldn't think that Apple would care that much unless Verizon was paying them to. Excuse me. Sorry. Brian says Ted Lasso is so good. He's not wrong. Dawn says Ted Lasso is the bomb. She's not wrong. Frank says Tom Lasso is the best Apple TV Plus program. I think he means Ted. Unless there's a sequel I hadn't heard about. And I'd pay to watch that. 50% of people in Bill's house like Ted Lasso. Got to get that number up, Bill. John's only one episode into Ted Lasso so far. He says he will continue. Yeah, generally speaking, what I say is 3. And I don't mean for Ted Lasso, I mean for anything. If there's some show that people are going on and on and on about, give it 3 episodes. And if it doesn't get you in 3 episodes, it's probably not going to. Oh, that's funny. Mac Interactive had tea while watching Ted Lasso. Don't know why you do that to yourself. Interesting. What happened to the Apple car? Apple Car. Well, was there ever going to be an Apple Car? I know there was talk of there being an Apple Car. I think they're still working on technologies for cars. Love that quote, Frank. I'm not going to read it out because I want people to discover it for themselves, but I love that quote. Matthew wonders whether waking to a song was a certain type of device patented. I mean, whether waking to a song on a device was like being protected by a patent troll or something. Man, that's horrible. It's possible. And I think we got down to the end here. Quibi seemed like a bad idea from the start, says Roger. I don't. Okay, yeah, we're like I say, it was going to be a tough hill to climb. If things had stayed the way they were last year, I think more people would have been willing to throw more money into seeing whether or not it was gonna succeed, into trying to make it succeed. Their whole business model was watching things on the go. Phew. I mean, and the problem is also high quality content because we have things we can watch on the go. We have YouTube, we have the TikTok, which I know a lot of the kids love the TikTok. Have you seen the guy singing the Stevie Nicks while skateboarding and not wearing a helmet? Oh, kids come running for the great taste of TikTok. We got stuff that we can watch on the go. The idea that people would pay for quality there, I mean, he's from Hollywood. He has made his living. He was part of DreamWorks SKG. He was part of Disney before that. He's been part of Premium. Um, the books about that are going to be interesting, and I will probably read reviews of those books. Pandemic or not, didn't appeal to me. Perhaps Roger is right, and it wasn't targeted to me anyway. That's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. All of my exposure to Quibi has been in just news stories. I don't know that it was ever marketed to me. Oh well. I take no joy in its failure because people lost jobs today and somebody tried something new, and that's too bad. I mean, not too bad that they tried something new, but they tried something new and it failed. And rather than this being a see if they can do it, you can do it, it's going to be a cautionary tale about this is why we're not doing that. So that's kind of a bummer. I do also wonder what's going to happen to all that content. Will they put it up on YouTube? Will they put it on Vimeo? Will they make it like, some sort of package deal where you can still watch it? Was any of it worth watching? Will the world ever know? So many questions. Matthew gets the last word. I don't think it's safe to watch anything on the go. I mean, ironically, all the videos of people falling into manhole covers or walking into poles looking at their phone. Matthew, ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Dropko right there. He gets if we had an applause button, I would push it for Matthew. All right. I have 3 shows to go work on now. So if you will excuse me, I'm going to go do that. Thank you all very much for hanging out and for sticking around and keeping that conversation over there going. It's wonderful. Tell friends if you would. Hit subscribe, hit like, I guess. I don't know, or don't. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon.